She clutched the silver coin tightly. "I wish for my family to have enough money to live comfortably," she said softly. The coin gleamed as she dropped it into the darkness below. It disappeared with a faint splash. She leaned closer, her curiosity battling the rules of the legend. The whispers grew louder, forming fragments of sentences. "Clara, why do you wish for wealth?" the voice asked. Startled, she stepped back, her heart racing. The voice sounded neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was otherworldly. Who's there?" Clara stammered. In the heart of the quiet village of Willowbrook, surrounded by ancient oak trees, stood an old stone well. It was known as the Whispering Well, and for centuries, it had been the subject of whispered tales and cautious glances. Villagers believed the well could grant wishes, but only if you followed its strange and eerie rules. There were 3 rules, simple yet unsettling. Number 1. Make your wish at midnight. 2. Drop a silver coin into the well. And 3. Never, under any circumstance, look into the water after any wish. The origins of the well's legend were shrouded in mystery. Some said it had been built by a hermit who had struck a deal with the spirits of the forest. Others believed the well was a portal to another realm, guarded by an unseen force. Children in Willowbrook grew up hearing stories of foolish wishmakers who ignored the rules and met grim fates, their tales told in hushed tones around fires. One chilly autumn evening, 17-year-old Clara, a curious and brave girl, decided to test the legend. Her family had fallen on hard times, and she believed a wish for good fortune might change their lives. Her father, once a skilled carpenter, had injured his hand and could no longer work. Her mother's small garden barely provided enough to eat, and Clara's younger brother, Sam, often went to bed hungry. Clara couldn't bear to see her family suffer any longer. That evening, as her family huddled together in the small living room of their cottage, Clara announced her plan. "I'll go to the well tonight," she said, her voice steady but her hands trembling. Her mother's eyes widened with fear. "No, Clara," her mother said firmly. "We don't meddle with things we don't understand. That well is cursed." Her grandmother, sitting silently by the fire, looked up and spoke in a low, grave voice. "If you must go, child, remember this. Do not look into the water. Promise me." Clara nodded, though unease gnawed at her. Her grandmother pressed a small silver coin into her hand. "This coin has brought our family luck for generations. Use it wisely." Armed with the coin and a lantern, Clara waited until the village clock struck midnight. As the clock's final chime echoed through the air, she stepped out into the cold night. A heavy fog blanketed the ground, and the path to the well seemed longer and more twisted than usual. The lantern cast flickering shadows on the trees, making them look like clawed hands reaching for her. She clenched the silver coin in her fist, her heart pounding with both excitement and fear. The well stood silent and foreboding in the moonlight. Clara's footsteps echoed as she approached, the sound of rustling leaves her only company. She felt a shiver run down her spine but brushed it off. "It's just a story," she whispered to herself, though her voice quivered. The well's stones were slick with moss, and its wooden roof creaked in the breeze. Clara stood before the well and took a deep breath. She glanced around, half expecting someone to jump out and stop her. But there was only silence, save for the faint hoot of an owl in the distance. She clutched the silver coin tightly. "I wish for my family to have enough money to live comfortably," she said softly. The coin gleamed as she dropped it into the darkness below. It disappeared with a faint splash. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Clara heard it, a faint whisper, like wind through the trees. The voice was soft, almost soothing, but the words were incomprehensible. She leaned closer, her curiosity battling the rules of the legend. The whispers grew louder, forming fragments of sentences. "Clara, why do you wish for wealth?" the voice asked. Startled, she stepped back, her heart racing. The voice sounded neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was otherworldly. Who's there?" Clara stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. The voice didn't answer her question, but continued. "Be careful what you wish for. The price is always paid." Clara's hands trembled as she clutched her lantern. She wanted to run, but a strange pull kept her rooted to the spot. Her eyes drifted toward the well's edge. The rule was clear: never look into the water. But the whispers beckoned her, tugging at her curiosity like invisible hands. Against her better judgment, Clara leaned over the edge. The water shimmered faintly in the moonlight, and her reflection stared back at her. But then the image began to change. Her reflection smiled, but Clara wasn't smiling. The reflection's eyes darkened, and its mouth moved, forming words Clara couldn't hear. Panic surged through her as she stumbled back, nearly dropping her lantern. The whispers stopped abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence. Then the well's water bubbled and churned, and a single silver coin flew out, landing at Clara's feet. She picked it up hesitantly. It wasn't the coin she had dropped. This one was tarnished and engraved with strange symbols she didn't recognize. When Clara returned home, she found her family awake and excited. Her father held a letter, his hands trembling with joy. It was an inheritance from a distant relative they had never met. The amount was enough to lift them out of poverty. The joy on her parents' faces was a sight she would never forget. They spoke of fixing the house, buying new clothes for Sam, and even sending Clara to school. For a moment, Clara felt relief and happiness. But then she remembered the voice's warning. The price is always paid. Days turned into weeks, and strange things began happening in Willowbrook. The villagers spoke of hearing whispers at night and finding silver coins with strange engravings in odd places. Clara tried to ignore it, but the symbols on the coin she kept in her pocket seemed to glow faintly in the dark. She often woke in the middle of the night, convinced she had heard her name being called, only to find the house silent. One night, Clara's younger brother, Sam, disappeared. The family searched everywhere, but he was nowhere to be found. Desperate and terrified, Clara returned to the Whispering Well. She stood before it, her lantern flickering in the cold wind. The forest seemed alive with shadows, and the air felt heavy with an unseen presence. "What have you done with my brother?" she demanded, her voice cracking. The words echoed into the stillness. The whispers returned, louder this time. "The price has been paid," the voice said, echoing from the depths. Clara's heart sank. She realized the terrible truth. Her wish had come at a cost, and now her family's happiness was built on a foundation of loss. Determined to save Sam, Clara made a decision. She dropped the engraved coin back into the well and spoke firmly. "I wish to undo my first wish. Take the wealth, but give me back my brother." The well's whispers grew into a cacophony, and the ground trembled beneath her feet. Clara held her ground, clutching the edge of the well as a blinding light erupted from its depths. The light was so bright it seemed to erase the night itself. When the light faded, the whispers ceased, and the night was silent once more. Clara hurried home, her heart pounding. She burst through the door to find Sam sitting at the table, confused but unharmed. The letter of inheritance was gone, and the family was back to their humble but loving life. Tears streamed down Clara's face as she hugged her brother tightly, vowing never to take their simple life for granted again. From that day on, Clara never spoke of the Whispering Well. She warned others to leave it alone, for its gifts always came at a terrible cost. The villagers, now more cautious than ever, left the well to crumble and be claimed by time. But on quiet nights, when the wind blew just right, some claimed they could still hear faint whispers drifting through the village, as if the well's spirit was waiting for the next curious soul. And so, the legend of the Whispering Well lived on, a haunting reminder of the dangers of unchecked desires and the true cost of wishes. As Clara grew older, she often found herself staring at the forest from her window, wondering what force resided within the well. It became a story she would tell her grandchildren, not as a warning, but as a lesson. Be careful what you wish for the world gives nothing freely.